In 1974, the first tabletop role-playing game was created. Since then, people from all around have gathered to play. Join me as we talk with RPG enthusiasts while they share their best, worst, and favorite moments. This is You Had to Be There.
Hey everyone, welcome to You Had to Be There, a D&D storytelling podcast. Here we are on a nice Saturday, if you're listening to this live, Saturday morning, and we're talking with Brian from Fighter Guy Studios. What's going on, Brian? Welcome to the show.
Hey Tom, thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, of course, man. I'm really glad you reached out because we connected on Twitter, as I do with most of my guests. And you have some fun stuff coming up for Fighter Guy Studios. That's your like company.
I think company's probably a little grand.
Yeah, that's fine. We can grand things.
But yeah, Fighter Guy Studios is kind of my catch-all game designing, art, leatherworking. I just stuck it all into one brand.
Leatherworking too? That's awesome. What do you what have you made?
I have wallets, dice bags,
sick
belts. I actually have it's downstairs. I'd show it to y'all. But I have a great leather mug that.
Oh, nice! It's like wrapped in leather and.
It's actually it's
fully leather.
You make a mug out of leather and then you put resin on the inside.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Wow, very cool.
Back in the Middle Ages, they would use pine pitch.
Okay.
If you pour coffee into pine pitch, you drink pine pitch.
Oh, yeah, we don't like that. Yeah.
So resin's way better.
Yeah, I'm guessing they didn't drink coffee as much back then. Or just
probably
maybe. Not. I don't know. I don't know what kind of caffeinated beverages they had. Probably tea. Well, it would definitely be tea. Tea is older than coffee, yeah.
I have friends who could wax poetically about what they did and didn't drink or eat in the Middle Ages, but
some are better at that. Yeah, some are really good. I stick with just whatever I imagine at the time. If someone's like, I'm gonna have a mimosa in any of my games, I'm like, sure, you have a mimosa. But cool. So you have all these cool stuff. Do you ever make like costumes and stuff like that too? Do you go to like Ren fairs or anything like that?
I did. I live in middle of nowhere, Alberta, and there's not a lot up here like that.
Crazy.
But back in the day when I lived in Texas, I used to go to Texas Ren Fair and Scarborough Fair occasionally, but I was a member of the SCA, Society for Creative Anachronisms.
Oh.
If you don't know anything about it,
nope.
The nice way of putting it, or the official way of putting it, is it's a medieval reenactment society.
Mm-hmm.
The true way to describe it is the longest running costume party in the world.
Sure.
It started in the 60s with a bunch of people, including a few big fantasy writers whose names totally escape me now, got together to have a costume party where they all dressed up in medieval clothing and had a grand tournament, and the person who won the tournament became king, and they went, wow, that's fun, we should do it again. And they went to go get the park, and the park said, well, if you're a nonprofit, we'll give it to you for free or discounted or something. So they became a nonprofit, and now it's been going on for 50, 60 years.
That's awesome.
So I used to be really active down there, so I'd have the medieval garb and belts, and used to do sword fighting, and
that's awesome. Yeah, I used to LARP, so it's definitely not fancy and glamorous. It was just a bunch of idiots running around the woods with foam weapons, but still fun.
Take those foam weapons and use wood instead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure. Like, I think I've met someone who's done like Bataan fighting, kind of stuff like that. So similar to that. That's awesome though. That's cool. So wait. So you went from Texas to Alberta?
I did. I went from the Texas of the South to the Texas of the North.
Wow. It's amazing.
Met a very nice girl on an online video game, and we started talking offline, and she came down to visit me, and then I came up to visit her, and I just never left.
Wow, cool. Wait, that's up in Canada, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I'm stupid, but very nice.
No,
do you play? Does your wife also play? Or your girlfriend? I'm not sure. Play tabletop role playing games? Wife? Yeah.
She is not a role player.
Really? Okay.
Not even sorta. She likes that I have the hobby, but it's just not her thing.
Yeah. That's fine. My wife's the same way. She likes her her video games, her one-player video games that require no, social interactions as much. But that's fun. How long have you been playing tabletop games?
Since I was 15, so math, 28 years, 27 years.
Wow, 27 years. That is a really long time.
Now, caveat that when I was 15, I started playing. I played till I was probably 21.
Okay.
Got into the SCA, which is kind of like fantasy role playing in real life.
Yeah.
For a few years, came to Canada. Didn't really do anything like that till about 3 years ago. So yes, 27 years, but really 8 maybe.
Gotcha. So you missed like a huge gap. So what was that first edition that you started out with, or
no?
What was it?
D&D second edition.
Second edition.
Advanced AD&D second edition.
Sure.
I stopped playing shortly after third edition came out.
Sure.
And then they apparently had a half edition, and then fourth edition, and then fifth edition. Then I came.
Yeah,
out.
you skipped the 3.5, and then the 4, and then the war that apparently that occurred between there of like, this is the not right, and then fifth edition came out, and everyone was like, it's still not 3.5, but I guess we'll accept this. And
I don't get it. Like,
I don't get it either.
It's not like 3.5 went away. It's still there.
No, I'm sure people still do play it. Yeah.
It's this war.
I joke.
Well, no, it's serious though. Look at Twitter. Like, it's some of the vitriol that comes out of people about, and that goes OSR.
Yeah.
People and 3.5 people, and there's still a few 4 people out there, which, as far as I can tell, they're weird anyways. And then sorry, 4 people. I'm not actually calling you weird. And then the 5 fifth edition people. Play what you want. Like,
yeah, no,
I never understood it.
I'm fully on that train, and it's like, yeah, okay, so they're not going to come out with any more books, but like, if you've been playing that long and 3.5, like, yeah, just homebrew stuff, and if that's what you and your crew likes to play, like 6th edition, I think is going to be coming out soon, and I'm not going to be even looking at those books for a while, because I've only been playing for a couple of years, so I'm like not going to learn all of 6th edition when I have a full great grasp on 5th edition. Like, no, leave me alone. I just figured this out.
And I don't want to buy all new books.
Yeah.
Like back when I started playing, they were $20 or $30 a piece.
Yeah.
And I just paid 90 was just over, well, with some dice, it was just over $100 for Spelljammer.
Right. Yeah. And that's the new one that came out.
And I'm not, like, let's not talk about Spelljammer. I have very strong feelings about Spelljammer.
I haven't really even looked at it completely, but I don't know. I mean, I think they do. They're going in like a little more direction closer to what Pathfinder 2 has been doing. It seems like, with like kind of a wider range of races, and I think that's where this new 6th edition is going to. Is they're kind of stripping away those like more of the classes and the subclasses and stuff, and giving it more of you can kind of cherry pick whatever you want to kind of like make it a little more customizable, which I think is pretty cool, because sometimes I do look at like some of the subclasses, I'm like, this is all I get, and like, I don't know, it's like seems like I barely get anything from some of them, but there are ways.
Well, I almost feel like they're piling up so many subclasses that, and I know it's not true, but it feels like eventually you're going to run out of these super specific subclasses. Yeah. Or the broader subclass, then you have to get super specific. And I don't know, to me, and again, let's do all the hot takes at the beginning, and that way anyone who's watching the stream can really be angry.
Sure.
I firmly believe that there should be like 4 classes.
Okay.
Martial, I don't know what you'd say religious, but but
yeah,
you know, for that, rogues and spellcasters,
right.
like, because really, what's a barbarian? Barbarian's just a fighter,
Right.
It's a little bit different. Ranger's just a fighter that's a little bit different.
Well, that's how it used to be. It used to be like the fighter then later could become like the subclass of a fighter was a barbarian.
Or you could become a cavalier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've like brought back a lot of that stuff, it seems like, with new subclasses, just kind of like reflaring it. But yeah, I mean, it's all kind of boils down to those differentiations. But yeah, I think it would be interesting to see how they'll put it where you can kind of like mix and match some things, because I think it would be fun to do that. But I'm still making my way through all the character ideas that I have, and I'm sure I never will, as most.
No.
Yeah.
No. Hundreds. Like, I've got binders
of character ideas.
High school that I still haven't made. You know, it's like, I'm never gonna make those.
Yeah. Not enough time. Let's talk about you. So you have a virtual con coming up, which I am now a partner of, a friend of the con. I guess I would say friend of the con. Let's talk about that, because that's exciting, and I want to try to at least take part in one of those virtual games if possible, if I'm free.
Yeah, I hope you come out. So to talk about the con, we'll have to talk about Brains and Brawn.
Sure, Brains and Brawn.
So Brains and Brawn is my game system. It's the super simple tabletop role-playing system. Not just game, but system. And the concept, and this actually kind of fills in everything we were talking before. So, not to be boring about it, back in the day when I did SCA, I did the heavy fighting, big stick, steel helmet, bruises, welts.
CT,
it was great.
all that stuff.
It was a blast. I went and did paintball because it was the non-painful version of, you know, the game I like to play.
Right.
And so, you know, over 10 years you have like 12 concussions, or over 12 years you have 10 concussions. I don't know, something like that. And the brain just stops functioning as well. I always refer to it as Swiss cheese brain. Yeah. So I can read about 2 pages of stuff before everything just starts to blend together and I forget about it. It makes reading novels really, unfortunately, hard now. But learning a game system is just silly. I can't do it. I know 5e because I listened to Critical Role for a year when I was on the road all the time.
Right.
And so I picked up just enough of the rules that I could kind of fumble my way through. And my group has a couple rules lawyers in there who constantly DM me when I'm not sure about a rule. It's great. They're invaluable to me. So I said, okay, I want to play a new game. I want to go play Shadowrun, or I want to go play Call of Cthulhu. But I can't pick up a 200-page rule book and put together the rules. And not only that, but I don't want to ask my players to go out and buy a $60 rule book and learn it so that we can do a one-shot to decide we really don't want to keep playing.
Right.
For whatever reason. So I said, okay, let's come up with something that I can learn, that I can read and once and actually know the rules and go from there. So I made Brains and Brawn, which is a 2-page... It's 4-page total, but 2 pages of rules.
Sure.
Super simple game system. Setting agnostic. You can do anything with it. There's actually a podcast coming out on Monday where they just took the basic system and ran with it. And apparently they had a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to hearing that one. But then I took those rules and I created expansions. So if you want to play Brains and Brawn Zombie Apocalypse,
sure,
you can go buy Roamers and Revenants. And that 2-page rule system blends in with the Brains and Brawn rule system, and now you can have zombies.
Cool.
If you want Old West, I did one called Lawmen and Lariats, and it's the Old West. And so you can take those if you want to do a zombies in the Old West game. You can take those 3 books, put them together, and run them.
So basically, all the additional rules from those additional books just blend and build onto the core rules that you have.
Yeah. And they play nicely with each other. So
right.
You can do the idea is if I have a bunch of supplements, you can play any game you want. So Shadowrun's the best example. This is right. my eventual goal. Shadowrun is cyberpunk with the Matrix, with magic,
right,
with elves and dwarves and orcs. So eventually you could take Brains and Brawn and the Cyberpunk expansion and the Matrix expansion and the race expansions and the magic expansions, put them together and play Shadowrun off of Brains and Brawn and still only have 20 pages of rules.
Right. Okay.
What
kind of a system is it?
It's D10.
D10s. Cool.
Single stat. So you have a stat between 3 and 8.
Okay.
Originally I found lasers and feelings and built a hack for lasers and feelings. And I said, oh, this is fun, but this isn't what I want. So it's grown. So it's not really a hack of lasers and feelings anymore. It's just loosely inspired by. But it's literally, it takes about 5 minutes to make a character and about 5 minutes to learn the game, and you can play.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Good for new players. Good for guys who want to just do, it's like, hey, let's not do the campaign because Bob can't come today. So let's just run a game of, B&B. And you can do one shots of anything you want, or you can expand it and do longer games. So you
should do a bed and breakfast version.
Expansion. See, I need to have a bed and breakfast.
Murder mystery, bed and breakfast. Yeah.
There you go. Someone's doing a chef game, and I'm like, I could do that.
Chef,
like the expansions, every time I turn around, I've got new expansions. I've got a list of expansions that I want to work on. But the reason I want to do the con, getting back to your original question, is I think I've got something cool. I think the system, the people who've played the system all really enjoy it. People keep, and it's weird to say it, and it sounds egotistical to say it, but I keep hearing people say it's elegant, which is
nice.
Got to be a cool thing for a game system.
Yeah.
But you know what? I have 300 followers on Twitter, and all of them, I think, follow each other. So really, when I talk, I'm not talking to anyone in Twitter except for my friends.
Right.
So I want to get out the word that, hey, look, you can come in, you can sit down in 4 hours, you can learn the game, make some characters, play a game, and have a ton of fun. And, it's pay what you want for the moment. So go get it. There's no reason not to own it and try it.
Right.
And so I want to kind of bring together a bigger community to play, because I think people would really enjoy it. So it's going to be through Discord server. Yep. We've got... I am so sorry.
No, that's okay. Cats. That's hilarious.
Yeah. We have 5 sessions. So they start at, for my time, they start at 6 a.m.
Right.
Because I've got friends in Europe and England who want to be part of it. So that starts at noon for them, I think.
Yeah.
Or 2 or 1, I don't know. And so they'll start the beginning of the day, and they'll run a few sessions, and then as we're all waking up, we can start playing sessions, and they go on till again, my time, I think 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And so there's a time that almost anybody can make it. Even if you're working, you can still get off and come play. I've got a whole bunch of really awesome guys who are running games for me. So they're, we call it telltellers instead of game master, dungeon masters, telltellers, TT, because alliteration's great.
Yeah.
So they're going to run different games from different expansions. So you can come out and play a game for free. We're going to have swag. You get some cool stuff in your virtual con goodie bag. I've got some great partners with some creators on Twitter. And I should name them, and my memory won't allow me to.
We'll
I'm
tag.
sorry.
Yeah, we'll get all the. You send me all the links afterwards.
Perfect.
And
That'd be awesome.
We'll plug it out.
And some of them are super excited about it, and they've offered door prizes.
Cool.
So it's a free con. It's one day, October 15th. Come out, play a game or 2 or 3 or 5. Meet new people. Get a new experience. Get a bunch of swag. Have a chance to win door prizes. It seems like a fun way to spend
Saturday, few hours,
4 to 20 hours.
And you don't even have to I think I'm gonna try to hop on. I think I'll have a gig that night. But I think I can hop on one of the earlier ones. Probably not the 6 a.m., but one of them. So it's all
that's
gonna
8
be
for you.
It'll be 8 for me. That's true. I could probably pull that off.
That's not bad.
Maybe. It depends. My computer is right behind the wall where my wife sleeps, so we'll have to see how that goes. Unless I hop on my tablet or something. But
my wife is
Brains
in
and
bed right
Brawn,
now. So
Brains and Brawn is going to be run the whole time. Are they going to be like different expansions and stuff? So each one's going to be. Does it say in the thing? Because I'm a zombie person. I love zombie stuff. So I would like to see like which ones are running which ones.
Well, I think, let's see, I'm trying to remember. So they've told me a little bit.
No
right
problem.
now, the goal was to have one tellteller for each table. But we're still 6 weeks out and one table's full. So I'm going to have to get another tellteller for that session.
Yeah. Awesome.
So as we get closer, I think we'll have the schedule, and what games. I know somebody is doing a superhero game.
Nice.
Someone is doing a cosmic horror western. They're
Very
combining.
Nice. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that one. I'm not sure what everybody else is doing. I have to.
All right, we'll talk
see.
about it. We did have someone hop in the chat. Tiki Games RPG says, "Hey Tom, hey Brian."
Hey, there we go.
Is that one of your buds?
That's one of my buds.
Hey.
He is actually writing a really awesome caveman scenario, for the game system.
Nice.
So
Tiki
that's
Games
awesome.
RPG. Thanks for hopping on. This is what we do. We chat. So hit that follow button, and if you want to do an episode, definitely reach out to me on Twitter because I'd love to talk to. I talk to everyone. I'll talk to anyone.
You need to talk to him. He's a radio guy, so this is
yeah,
right up his alley.
Tonk is missing. I don't know what that means.
That's the scenario that he's writing.
Oh, Tonk is missing. All right, cool.
Yeah,
Shout out to
Sticks and Stones is the caveman dinosaur expansion.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so funny. I just like that. I can already my brain starts turning. The wheels start turning of like, what would I play in that situation? Like every time. So that's super awesome. Nice. So that's gonna be fun. That's like a whole day. It's of just a new easy system to learn. I'll definitely after this I'll add you to the You Had to Be There Discord, and that way you can drop those promos there as well, because I have a ton of people that I'm sure would have no problem spending a Saturday playing some games, as we all probably do. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about when it comes to the con or Fighter Guy Studios, anything of that?
I mean, I could talk forever. But yeah. I won't.
Well, no, I always want to hear some of your fun stories too, but I want to make sure that you have plenty of time to talk about the cool things you got going on.
Yeah, no, I'll just end with and I guess we can probably put a link up for my itch store or coffee or something.
We'll get all those links out to everybody, but that's awesome. So when it comes to, do you run regular games now, and is it specifically in Brains and Brawn, or do you run 5th edition games too?
I actually run a 5th edition campaign right now.
Okay, cool.
Brains and Brawn isn't quite developed enough to run the fantasy game, because I just haven't had a fantasy expansion yet.
Okay.
But we've run now for 2 years and a few months.
The same campaign?
Same campaign.
Nice.
Yep.
Wow. What are you, is it homebrew or are you
100% homebrew?
Cool.
It actually all came about. So I used to be a sales manager for a barbecue company.
Okay.
Which meant I was on the road in my truck driving all over Alberta. And if you don't know how big Alberta is, it's almost the size of Texas.
Right.
It's
huge.
It's 13 hours. I live in the bottom corner, and one at a dealer in the top corner, opposite corner, and it was like 14 hour drive.
Right.
And so I was on the road 5 days a week, and I just listened to podcasts.
Right.
And actual play streams and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And as kind of a mental exercise, I started building a world when I'm sitting in the hotel room. I'm in the shower and I'm thinking about gods. I'm having breakfast in the morning because I'm by myself. So my brain's kind of going out. And I built a big pantheon, and I started designing this world, and I jumped on Incarnate and created a continent, and I was having a lot of fun with it. And I was coming up with cool stuff, and I thought, man, too bad I don't role play anymore. I'll never get to play any of this. Making this world that I'm never even going to get to enjoy.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe I'll just run a game. And I talked to my wife because I was gone a lot. So it was really hard to agree to do a game, because when I'm home, I want to be home.
Right.
And then COVID happened. And I was, and I left the barbecue company. They changed, they no longer sold the barbecue I was selling. So,
right.
So suddenly I could do a game, and I kind of reached out to a guy here locally that for a couple new players, and I had a friend that I'd met, I've known for 15 years since I moved up to Canada, and I knew he played, so I tracked him down and kind of started putting a game together, threw it out on Facebook, and a buddy of mine who I used to play with in high school, who was friends with me on Facebook, was like, "Hey, dude, can I play?"
Right.
And I'm like, heck yeah, this is cool. This is playing with a guy I haven't seen for 20 years. And so we started up the game, and then another of our mutual friends came in, and then another mutual friend came in. So I've got 6 players, 3 of whom I used to play with 20 some odd years ago.
That's awesome.
And we've missed a grand total. We haven't had a campaign session every single time, but we've missed a grand total of 3 weeks.
You play weekly?
We play weekly every Thursday night, and we've missed maybe 2 weeks in the 2.5 years that we've played.
That's awesome.
So it's worked out really nicely. Yeah.
Nice. So what's your world like?
It's fairly typical high fantasy. From the outset. All the races are. I wanted to come up with actual. I didn't want elves and didn't want dwarves, but because I was brand new into 5e at that point, literally I decided to buy the book after I decided to run the game. Because I wasn't super familiar with that, I didn't want to try to balance new races, so I ended up using the archetypes. So the dwarf race is called the Patari, and they're not the same as dwarves, but
sure,
for that, they're subterranean, tough type thing. They just look very different, and I tried to build their culture around what they would do. Not just take the dwarf culture, but I just use the dwarf archetypes to start with. Now they've all got their own stats and bonuses and stuff like that. But and then the thing that kind of sets the world apart. One, the Pantheon's really kind of extreme. It's different levels of deities, and I tried to expand that a little bit to make sense to me. But the world it's called a cusp world, and it's closer to the elemental planes than other worlds. So it's very easy. You can literally there's a few places in there that you can literally walk into the elemental plane of fire. Which my players found the hard way.
Oh no!
so they've been to the city of Brass, and they traveled through a few of the planes trying to get back to their world. And so that's kind of opened it up a little bit, because they always joke, they're like, well, can I play Tabaxi? I'm like, no, there's no Tabaxi in my world. Right. Can I play this? No, there's no that. And then they're kind of giving me a hard time about it, and then I DM them and be like, hey, you want to play a Tabaxi? We can make that happen. Because while they don't exist on the world naturally, it's very easy for one to get to the world,
right? Because of all the portals and stuff.
Yeah, and so they haven't taken me up on that, because I think they realize that my favorite kind of animal race is the GIF, and I'm pretty sure they understand how difficult of a time I'd have if they were a giant hippo walking into a bar,
right?
Instead of one of the races that everybody knows.
Yeah.
So it's been fun. It's been fun building that world out with my friends.
Nice. That's cool. I like the ability to just cross into planes. It's probably pretty chaotic. But it sounds like, so you don't get much people crossing on the regular, but you can, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's most people are never like, walk into the elemental plane of fire,
Right.
it sounds, oh yeah, you can walk straight into well, yes, but it's not a particularly pleasant walk.
Right. Yeah.
And so, if elemental plane of water, sure, if you can get out to the middle of the ocean where the crossover is,
right.
you can swim across, but you better be able to breathe water to do it. Right.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense.
So for the adventurers, yes, they can.
Right.
And they've seen other races and gotten just a taste of that. Like, it's not something that, the world isn't, the world is basically a high fantasy world until you start getting high enough level to start exploring those extra, their expansions.
Right.
Into the rest of it. So right now they're fighting the one of the levels of the Pantheon is called the Passions, and it's based off of the Greek classical passions, which is delight, lust, fear, and anger.
Sure.
Anger? Anyways, and they're not pleasant. Like,
right.
Delight is not a happy, friendly. Delight is, laughing when somebody falls down type thing. It's a dark,
cruel delight.
Yeah, it's cruel because people are jerks. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I hate to say it, but a lot of people are more likely, it's if an old person falls down crossing the road, more people laugh than go to help. And
depending on where you are. But
depending on where you are, and and depending on who the people are, I'm not putting everybody into one lump. But that was the whole point of the passions, is it's that deep seated feelings that you have, and so the deities in the world are created by the belief in them. So and I'd love to be able to just name a god, but they're all going away right now.
Yeah,
I have a big list, but yeah, if you believe in the god of luck, and everyone does, because you're like, you make a prayer to them every time. That's Lashimi, the god of luck. That god gains power because of the belief in him.
Yeah.
If you
like
go
Santa
that,
Claus.
then you have like Santa Claus, exactly. Yes. If you take that to the next step, though, feelings would create deities as well. So if you are an angry person, you are putting power into that deity. Yeah. And so there's a fifth passion, who is joy. And she is happy and friendly and everything. But she's the weakest of the group because, unbridled joy happens less often than depression.
Right.
Right. And so there's another. He's not really a passion, but he came about the same way. He's the god of nightmares. So every time somebody has a nightmare, they're putting power into this entity.
Got it.
And the entity's not a happy guy. He's kind of rough. So in the lore, as my players have found, he was captured by one of the orders, the god of internal knowledge and wisdom, Murgan, captured him and imprisoned him, and he is escaping. And he's created a disease that's actually being blamed on a different god, but it's him creating nightmares in people as he kills them and gaining power to escape. So they're trying to track him down and re-imprison him into the world. Wow, that sounds. It's way more fun than it sounds.
No, it's intense. It's a lot of things. Relax, man. You're fine. Like this, it's very interesting. Everyone's take on things is different, and that's a interesting angle that different emotions and ideas and feelings can just manifest different gods is interesting. And to have, because it's true, we all have different emotions and like things that shine more than others. And for someone like you said, like luck or joy, there's people out there and they're thriving. So I'm sure there are like some very happy-go-lucky clerics in the world that are just like, my god or goddess is, we're always happy. But there are the opposite of all that, which is still the darker emotions, which inherently, you're right, can are stronger in the sense that they consume you more.
Yeah.
you know, you go on Yelp or anything, and you know, reviews, you're always more than likely to see someone who had a bad experience. And if someone had a good experience, they usually don't go, I should leave a review on Yelp, you know, so it totally makes sense. What kind of shenanigans or, you know, not great things have your players gotten into other than stumbling across into the fire plane?
Into this?
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to let the hounds out real quick.
Yeah. Let the hounds out.
Okay.
Who let the dogs out? Yeah. Brian did. Yeah, everyone. Hey, if you're still hanging on while Brian lets his dogs out, you know, we go live here on Twitch and we talk fun tabletop RPGs, and then all my episodes get released every other Wednesday on YouTube and all audio platforms. Hey, Brian's back. What's up?
Sorry about that.
Nah, you're good.
I looked over. They're both sitting by the door,
like,
looking
please,
at me.
Please, we're sitting. They were sitting so good. We didn't hear. They weren't barking or anything.
No, they were being really good. There's something out there they wanted to go chase. So
problem.
One of them, the younger one, likes to eat the sprinkler heads.
Oh, don't
on our brand new irrigation system. So
yeah, gotta watch those.
Look out every once in a while, but that's okay.
No problem. We'll slap it. I want to hear a couple stories, and then we'll get you out of here. Back to your pups.
You know what? I'll tell. I've got a couple.
Yeah, tell a couple
first from
stories.
this campaign. I'd be hard pressed to come up with stuff from 20 years ago.
Don't worry about that.
They're out there, but they'd be pretty vague. So how do all adventures, cliche, how do all adventures start?
In a bar,
in a tavern, right?
Yeah.
So when I was sitting down with these guys, I wanted to make sure that I gave them a good introduction to the game. One of them was brand new, never played before. She was like, yeah, I just want to try it. I'm like, cool, let's do it. One of them was like, oh, I've played once. And then I had a couple players that were a little more experienced. And for session 0, we sat down. Everyone kind of created their characters outside of the session because it's Discord. It's harder to sit with the books, right? But everyone had their characters, and we sat down. We talked about rules and kind of the feel of the campaign and everything. And then I passed out digitally characters to everybody, and they were just goblins. I went through a name generator, found goblin names, made some goblins that were archers, some that had swords, some that had spears, but I just randomly gave them to people. And we ran through a short one-shot where, and I named the bugbear, I don't remember his name, but the bugbear came and he gathers up all the goblins, about 20 of them, and says, we're going to raid this town, and I want you to find the wagon full of goods. And they're like, okay. And they get to the town, and they're like, how do we get in? Bugbear grabs one of them, just pitches them over the wall, and that's how the game started. And so they rush this town, and they went after it. Like the brand new player who'd never played before ran into one of the gates, and a guard saw her and rolled initiative, and the guard one-shotted her. So the brand new player who'd never played before, first round of the game's dead. So I handed her another goblin. It was like,
I mean, that's goblin. Good at least.
There were 20 of them, so you know, they could. One of them murdered a couple people. She ended up turning around, like killing 3 guardsmen. She did great. And one of them's like, I set fire to this building. And I'm like, sure. So they're burning down the building. They're rushing through. I mean, it was just chaos. It's pandemonium. People were freaking out, and that's how we ended the session. A couple of the goblins died. A couple of them were hurt. So everyone had a lot of fun, and it gave me a chance to see, how I run combat, because that was the first combat I'd ever run in 5e, and teach them how to run it, because a couple of them were really new, and make sure that we all kind of jived. So we end the session. Next week we get together. I sit down. I start talking about their characters, and said, your characters are all in a tavern. They've been working as working together. They've known each other for a little while. We didn't go really into backstories. I didn't expect this to be actually a campaign that lasted, so we didn't really do a lot of backstories. I said, you've been hired to guard this merchant's caravan as he moves to this big city in this area, and you're sitting there, you're having a beer, you're drinking, eating some stew, and they're like, okay, and they kind of play for a minute, and I said, roll perception check, and a couple of them made it. I'm like, you smell smoke.
Oh,
like, really? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, one of them gets up to go check the kitchen, and then I said, you hear the town bells start ringing. Apparently, there's an attack, and they rush out, and of course, same city, same village, buildings are on fire, goblins are running amok in the streets. There's a big bugbear attacking, and that was the way we started. Is they had to fight their goblin characters from before, and they had fun with it because they're like, I know this goblin, this was me, and they're like killing him. And
did you have them actually run that goblin, or did you run it?
I ran the goblin for that one,
for that scenario,
for that side, yeah. But you know that so they were like putting out fires that they started.
That's funny.
The week before, like they thought it was fun to be chaotic and cause problems until the next session. They had to deal with their own consequences.
It's perfect. Yeah. No, I love situations like that. I had one of my friends who ran a game for us did a similar situation, but kind of on like a similar situation. I don't want to give too much of it away. I'll tell you off air because I actually am halfway through running it with some of my friends, which when we finish it will be undetermined because it was like a random Saturday or something. We were like, let's play D&D, and I was like, we'll finish this for sure in one session.
Eventually,
but never.
Yeah.
They were like,
no.
They're like, oh, we'll investigate the entire mine. I was like, roll intelligence, and everyone rolled so low, and I was like, yeah, you investigate the mine. And then after, I was like, about 2 hours passed, and then roll intelligence again, and finally I was like, you weren't supposed to investigate the mine. You were supposed to find past the mine. And they're like, oh, that's right. So we burned a lot of time, like because for some reason all of my friends like to dump intelligence.
Wait, what? A game system went off tangent?
Yeah. I know. That's hilarious though. That's a great way to start it, and I like how it was a good way to kind of get that expendable characters to like play through how to do combat and stuff, because that's some of the hardest parts I think for most newer players is combat.
Well, and it's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, it is.
You know, it's funny because I spend a lot of time. I have tons of notes when I'm playing because I don't remember stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's where I'm at. So, and I like combats with lots. Like I would rather have my group fight 100 kobolds than one Trask.
Okay.
And I firmly believe those are probably pretty accurate, even as far as wiping out a party.
Right.
And so I enjoy doing lots, but it's a lot to pay attention to. And I try to keep my combats going as quick as I can. And with 6 players, that can be a challenge at times,
especially virtually. It's harder.
Yeah.
It's harder to keep things moving virtually.
Oh yeah, and especially if you're doing theater of mind.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of times where I'm just like, my phrase is quick like bunny.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they aren't quick like a bunny. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Right.
But they're all terrified of what will happen if they're not quick like a bunny. So as soon as I say it, they tend to react immediately. So we get our combats going pretty quick. Like we can go through them pretty fast. I will say I didn't realize this type. I didn't DM a lot when I was younger.
Right. Okay.
I didn't have the maturity for it.
Sure.
You know, I tended to go for the cool factor instead of the good story.
Right.
And so I really wasn't a great DM back then. I didn't enjoy doing it. Now I don't particularly enjoy playing. I like to run games. And I've gotten a lot in that regard more mature. I won't say in all regards, but in that regard I'm more mature. But it turns out that first session 0, session 1 was a good indicator of what my players were going to have to deal with, because I like to keep them kind of on the ropes.
Right.
I like them to realize that they don't know what's going on from moment to moment.
Yeah.
At one point, they had to make it through a mountain, through a Patari city, and they got to the Patari city. They had to hire a Patari army to go fight a bunch of gnolls that were attacking the city that they had been playing in for the first 5-6 levels, and they get down there and they're trying to get them. And the Patari, who live for hundreds of years, don't make decisions quickly, and so they're like, "No, seriously, we need to know. We got to do this." And they're like, we're talking about it. And they're like, no, really, we really need to do this. So one of the, she's a fairly high ranking member of a guild, one of the moneymaker guilds, which is one of the most, anyways, going to Patari history and such, comes to them and says, I can give you 1,000 men, which is 1,000 Patari warriors is, equal to 10,000 Arunai, the human.
Right.
She goes, but I lost my husband in one of the deeper caves, and I need y'all to help me rescue him.
Right.
And tells a story about how she went through these giant 60-foot tall portals that they can take you to different parts of the mountain, and how they were attacked, and she was left for dead, but she was able to escape. And they're like, okay, let's do it. So they send the army off to fight in the city. They haven't found out yet what the results of that were.
Right.
They're about to end up in the same kingdom again, which is gone to pot. Pretty bad. So that'll be fun. So they can see how their friends are doing. They had made before, but they go through this portal, and they're going through, and they're fighting, and we had a lot of exploration. It was a lot of fun. As they're walking, they end up walking, I don't remember the exact details, but they end up walking into this new cave system, and I start describing it, the smooth walls of the system as twisting passages, and at some point, one of the players who's played before realized where they were, but of course, that's metagaming, and he won't, so I'm watching him on camera, and he's like freaking out, because he realizes they are walking into a Mind Flayer's lair.
Oh my god.
Just walking right in. My Intellect Devours, they call them octopodes, look like four-legged octopi.
Okay.
I like the picture of the brain with the legs, but it just seems silly to me.
It is kind of silly. It's kind of dumb.
It is. So they're four-legged octopus, basically.
Right.
And they'd seen those a couple times, and so they get into this Mind Flayer lair, and the person's like, okay, y'all just wait here, and I'll go get help or something. Like I said, so they're sitting in a holding chamber of an Illithid stronghold, literally next to the jail cells that they are going to be held in while the Illithids, do their experiments on them. And
right. If they get caught, yeah.
Yeah, and a couple of my players have figured this out, and they're freaking out. And a couple of them are completely oblivious to it. And they're like, this is weird. Like, y'all think this is weird? And suddenly, one of the players comes charging, or one of the NPCs comes charging back, and he's like, it's a trap! And he's grabbed by a Lithid, and the thing bites into his head and, rips his brain out right there in front of him. And they're like, holy crap. So
that was one of the NPCs?
One of the NPCs,
okay.
Yeah. So they're fighting through this lair, and thralls are coming out from everywhere, and of course it's twisting and turning, and they turn a corner, and it's this giant room with this pool of water in the center. And they go in, and an elder brain comes out. And these guys are 7th level. Like, these guys are not strong enough to be in the middle of an Illithid lair. But literally, they just trusted their NPC guide and walked right in the door. And something was set up beforehand, so they were able to escape quickly. And this goes into an NPC that lives in all points of time at once and has a magic shop that randomly appears wherever they want to appear. And they're able to escape through his doorway because he was asking them to retrieve a big stone tablet. So they were able to escape, but they literally were like dragging unconscious characters through the doorway. And of course, unconscious characters in an Illithid lair filled with Intellect Devours is a bad thing.
Yeah.
So they get through the door, they slam the door shut, they've got their 2 unconscious characters, one of them won't wake up, and we end the session. And I text my buddy. I'm like, hey, bad news.
Yeah.
You're dead.
Yeah.
But your body is being taken over by an intellect devourer. Do you want to keep playing the character?
Oh, that's awesome.
And he's like, yeah. So he ran a intellect devourer with his character for like a month of game time and like 3 months of real time.
Oh my gosh.
Acting weird, and people were like, what is going on? But it was such a long time that they kind of
got used to this weird character change.
Yeah, you know,
oh my god, that's so funny.
He was a cleric. He was already having problems, you know, like concerns with his faith. So they just thought it was character development.
Right.
And so they're going through and they're like, okay, this is weird. But when they went through the doorway, they were teleported so far away that the Elder Brain no longer has control of this intellect devourer. So this intellect devourer is suddenly like independent for the first time ever.
Gotcha.
And so he's learning how to be a human.
Oh
and so
my!
we go through this for months, and they end up raiding a village's a city's wizard's house to help a crippled kid who actually set them up to go fight this guy so he could steal their spell. But anyways, again, twists.
Yeah, there's deep.
They're in the guy's study. They're fighting this wizard. They're lightning bolting him and fireballs and like massive spells, and the character with the intellect devourer goes down.
Got it.
And they're in the middle of this fight, and he didn't do the last hit, but he did like second last hit. So the wizard goes down, and they turn, and I go into this long description about how they see his character laying there and starts to move, and his mouth opens wider and wider, and suddenly tentacles slip out as this octopode.
Yeah.
The actual creature's name is a quisling. Quisling slithers out from the guy's open mouth, and they just I thought one of them was gonna puke, one was about to cry, like because it'd been months between this, and they just. And the octopode was their friend at this point. Like he was willing to and they fireballed him right then and there and killed him, and they were just like the whole time. Oh my god, that's so funny. That's amazing. So that is the type of game that my players are having to live through. Like
I like that though. That is, I mean, you said like fun. I think that's fun. That's amazing. Like the fact that your friend got to play an intellect devourer and was like, I'm secretly just kind of, I don't know if he was necessarily evil because you said he was independent, but like to have that and keep that is probably, it's like hilarious. That is so funny.
Well, we had a lot of conversation. Like we every week we'd have the conversations about what the thing was feeling, and at first, he was evil and he was gonna screw with them, right?
Right.
And then he realized that these guys cared for him, and like he went through this in this over these weeks. He went through a lot of growth.
Yeah.
And the players are actually able to bring that character back to life.
Really?
They had gotten so they're working for a god. They're working for they call her Ruth, but the goddess of joy.
Oh, okay.
So they are actually working for her because she's fighting against the god of nightmares.
Right.
Cosmar. I remember his name, Cosmar, but one of the names that she's known by in the world is Ruth Maya, and which is a word that means happiness, so it works out. So they just call her Ruth. But she had given them at one point this crystal that could bring back somebody who was lost. It was actually a Christmas gift. Every Christmas they do stuff. We do either a one shot or whatever, and they get a gift. And so this one of the characters was terrified of losing their friends.
Right.
Because he had lost friends so often, and they had this crystal, and they had forgotten about it. It'd been like a year since they'd gotten it, and suddenly one of them was like, "Oh my god, give me that crystal!" And he goes and he uses it. And I asked the player afterwards, he comes back, but we ended it right there. I asked the player afterwards, I'm like, "Do you want to keep playing this character? Because this is pretty intense for what this crystal can do. Like, this was not designed to wish somebody back to life, because it's the only way he could come back."
Yeah, it's been months too.
Yeah. And he goes, "I do." He goes, "But I want to change the character. Like, he's not going to come back the same."
Yeah. Why
so
would you?
He came back as a sorcerer of the deep.
Yeah, that makes kind of sense.
Yeah, and so he was a totally different character for a while, and couldn't speak common, which was its own crazy issues. Because he's talking to the goblin sidekick that they've brought in, who's now having to talk to one of the other characters who's telling it.
Yeah.
So, but it was fun because we got to really get into that character and who they were coming back.
It's awesome.
But yeah, it's been a fun campaign. Like, we've had some fun. They
sounds
fought
awesome, man.
They fought a god and nearly all died. That same guy who lost his character to the Intellect Devoured just died. His new character just died like a week ago. It's the only character deaths in the entire thing. Has been both of his.
Wow, that's so funny. Tough times.
So he's a good sport about it.
But he still has technically been playing that character, which is cool. But
yeah,
that's awesome, man. I could, as much I would love to sit and talk about this all day. It's we're hit that hour mark, so this was a lot of fun. I definitely hopefully we'll get to do this again sometime, and I'm definitely gonna try to attend the virtual con. So before we get out of here, why don't you take some time, plug everything you got to plug one more time, and then we'll pop those links for the episode description.
Sure. Tom, I appreciate you having me on. This was a lot of fun. So I created Brains and Brawn. We have a supplement to that called Lores and Legends, which is GM-less or telltale-less play. That we can work with any of them. I've got expansions for zombies, superheroes, like Lovecraftian horror, cavemen and dinosaurs, Old West. Just came out last week with a ghost hunting, like the TV show Ghost Hunters type thing. So you could play that and the rules to make ghosts and stuff. I've got a coffee set up with some new stuff. I'm starting to do a newsletter where I'm going to send out little mini zines with new expansions, and I think that's how I'm going to do my races. So if you want to play an elf in one of my expansions, you should sign up for the newsletter. And we've got the con coming on October 15th. It is all day long. If you go to fighterguystudios.com, not only can you find a link to all the games, but you can also find the sign up sheet for that you can go in and just leave your name, email, and what sessions you want to play. And if you want to run a game, if you want to tell a tale, you can sign up to do that as well. And if I end up having way many more tables, then I'll pull people who want to run games. And then come see me at Fight Guy Studio on Twitter.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for that. I'll do my quick sign off and then we'll get you out of here. Thanks everyone who is listening or watching. This has been You Had to Be There, a D&D storytelling podcast. Please follow me on Twitter as well at TDecillis Comedy. You can also please follow us here on Twitch. You Had to Be There podcast. And if you want to be a guest on the show, you can email me at youhadtobethere@dndpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Twitter. We have a lot of fun. And if you have been enjoying the show, tell a friend, leave a review. It helps. Throw it out there. I know people are listening. I see the numbers, so share it. And if you have some fun stories and maybe you're camera shy, you can write them in. Maybe I'll start doing that. We don't know. That's what we do here.
That was an option?
No, not for you, because you had a cool stories.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking about it. I'm saying, no, not everyone is ready to sit and go live on Twitch, and I want people to feel comfortable, but I know there are so many stories out there, so it's an idea I'm tossing around. So if it sounds like a good idea and maybe we'll just do a segment where I just read some fun stories. Why the hell not? I'm flexible. All right. I'll get us out of here. Thanks everyone for listening. This has been You Had to Be There with Brian from Fighter Guy Studios. Bye everyone.